I'm often joined by my good friend, associate producer Dave Sebree, a world-class guitar slinger from Austin, Texas. Dave and I have been on many expeditions together as musicians, divers, and filmmakers. When we were on Bonaire last time, we got certified in the use of rebreather technology by Walter Stark. Walt is an instructor with Technical Diving International, or TDI. Diving with rebreathers is a certification that I'd wanted for a long time. And, as I suspected, literally overnight, this technology changed forever the way I'm able to work underwater. The very day I got this certification, I went on a night dive and spotted sharp-tailed eels nuzzling in a patch of sand. These eels usually don't stick around very long when approached by divers. Most of the time, they shy away from the explosive bubbles of open-circuit scuba. A rebreather lets me get up close and personal with reticent species like this one, and I discover animal behaviors I'd never noticed before. For example, we see that these eels can bury themselves in the sand, much like the spotted snake eels we've seen in the waters off Dominica. It's as though they are being told a bedtime story after being tucked in for the night. We turn off the movie lights and let them have their dreams. We find one of them fighting traffic the next morning, follow him, and discover more social aspects exhibited by these little animals. We're happy to note that the rebreathers allow us to get very close to these guys even during daylight hours. Sharp-tailed eels are known to allow brief encounters when the sun is out, but it usually doesn't take them too long to decide that they've had enough. More often than not, they'll disappear into a hole in the reef rather than stick around and get their pictures taken. Today, in the sand and rubble on the fringes of the reef, we find Mr. Sharptail coming home from work to check on the wife and kids. The little ones take to the lenses like actors to a mirror, and their inquisitive nature is exposed. Meanwhile, Dad makes a sweep around the family's condo of coral and is greeted by an impatient mate. Another dive, another reef, and we're face to face with some of the most famous of Bonaire's underwater residents. It's real hard to see a film or read a magazine story about Bonaire without seeing some of these guys in the starring roles. Local knowledge is utilized in locating them, and our lenses relish the encounters every time. Seahorses typically stay put for open circuit, but the rebreather does let us spend more time with them. Our lights and camera batteries run out long before the air supply. At Country Garden, a dive site up the road from Captain Don's habitat, a perfectly rounded hole in the sand lets us know that a reef mantis shrimp is close by. These little guys are totally obsessive-compulsive, and the camera captures a controlled, deliberate excavation by this subsea construction worker. With claws that Caribbean fishermen refer to as thumb splitters, this one goes about his work with the knowledge that he can inflict a severe wound if he wants to. And you know what? You can search for days for a scene like this, and when you find it, you know where it is? Yep, right under the boat. To an underwater filmmaker, a rebreather quickly becomes a valued comrade. Another species known to shy away from bursting bubbles is the yellowhead jawfish. A dive on Jerry's Reef off Klein Bonaire reveals some of them frolicking about in the rubble field, but never straying too far from home. They forage about alongside other species as though it's just another day at the supermarket. Not far away, we find a male with a mouthful of eggs. Our air supply far outlives the camera battery, and we have to leave before being rewarded with a shot of Daddy Jawfish letting the young'uns out for a bath. I guess we'll just have to come back. You can bet we'll come back to the water before this trip is over, but for now, we trade the exhilaration of the reef for that of riding Harleys in the Bonairean countryside. You know, when I look at these bikers, though, I have to recall one of the scariest moments of my life. My brother Grady and I were on a trip around the country with our grandparents in 1967 when we found ourselves on a lonely stretch of California highway. Suddenly, we were surrounded by a swarm of bikers, and we just knew we were going to be victims of some unspeakable crime. Well, of course, they simply rode on and left us alone, but the image of the felonious biker gang remains. I'm convinced that we'll be able to find a desperado in this bunch. Maybe this guy. Could this be the biker bandit, ready to strike fear into the hearts of... What's that? I'm being told that this is actually the Minister of Justice from Aruba. Okay. Well, we'll be back to find out what barbecued iguana tastes like right after this.